Good morning, Pinewood. Oof. It's so good to be here with you. I think it's a good spot to start with this idea of knowing it's your pastor's first Sunday back. And I think it's a good idea to start there because whenever I think of the steps that I'm taking into my future that I believe God has for me, I constantly think of Jess and Parker and Jess, the Manuals. And as I think about them, it's important for you to know how much I love them. And I love them because they love me for who I am. And they don't expect anything from me, but they want everything for me. And when you find people that live like that, you actually have found somebody worth fighting for, not with. Someone to genuinely go through life with. And so you need to know what you actually have when you think of them and when you think of this church, this community that you're sitting with right now. And whether this is your first time or this is your 100th time, or since a few of you, even from the beginning, I'm going to say it a little bit more succinctly, and I'm going to say it like this. You know what you have if the foundation of your future is found in their friendship. Their faith has inspired me to have more of it. Faith. And when you have friends that compel you, propel you, inspire you to take a step into the future that you were actually created for, you have found something worth fighting for and someone worth going through life with. And that is what you have with Parker and Jess. And that is what you have with this church that we call Pinewood. Let us not forsake what we actually have. Because we as humans are really good at doing that. The grass is greener. There's more opportunity there. But we know once we've done that enough that it's never that green. And it's never that good of an opportunity. It always comes with a price. And what you will actually find when you find something like this is something worth watering so that it grows green grass. It's something worth giving your life to so that you actually have a life that's worth living. It's a mission that goes beyond an individual, and it says there's a collective group of people here who don't just have good ideas, but actually want to experience what it means to not be set aside and to be used and abused and to be treated as trash and to not actually find anything worth looking for, but where there's fool's gold around every corner, or there's somebody that's just wanting to take something from me or take life from me or just use me for a tool or a talent or an idea that I have, or even just monetarily. No, that's not what we were made for. What we were made for is actually to step into not being set aside, but actually being set apart. And then once we realize what being set apart really feels like and looks like, then we can actually, I believe, practically. Can I say that? Practically? You can practically follow Jesus and experience the miraculous move of God today. Right here. But we get so used to stepping into a service, wanting to gain something from the person or wanting to gain something or a feeling from the situation, that we actually don't even think about who God is actually speaking to. That he actually wants something for you that's useful today. That's useful today. That's practical right where you are. And it's extremely personal to you individually. And so we've been in a series. This is my second talk in this series, so this is sick for me. I love this, okay? I'm having a blast. Keegan crushed. Keegan, you preached last week, right? I get my days mixed up. Is that right? 2 weeks ago. Who preached last week? Oh, I need to listen to that one. I'm fired up about that. I need to listen to that one, okay? I've listened to 2 talks other than the one that I gave. I didn't listen to it, just to be honest. I heard it when I said it, right? But I heard Keegan crushed and then Matthew crushed, and we've been building. Is this the last talk in this series? There's one more, there's a few more? Okay, sweet. The reason that I want to encourage you to keep, maybe even if you missed a few, maybe go back, but also to look forward is because this is very formational for the individual that's wanting to learn from the Old Testament, that's wanting to learn from a group of people that are just like us, that God has a lot of vision for, that he has a lot of simple, practical identity for. And this week, we're going to be looking at this moment where the Israelites are stepping into the foot of Mount Sinai. And what's cool about that is at the foot of Mount Sinai, if we look back and we think about all of the talks that we've had and about Israel and what's been happening, it's really about, they were in slavery about 400 years. And they moved from this 400-year journey of being slaves in Egypt to now they're free. And one of my favorite thoughts is this idea that they exited Egypt in a day, but it took 40 years to get Egypt out of them. That's why they had to go into the wilderness. I love that. That's like an exciting thing for me because I'm like, okay, good. I can set my life to be on a right track in a moment. Today you can set your life to be on the right track, but it'll take some time to actually see the habits and the character and the things that you really want to come into your life reformed and reshaped to what God actually has for us. We call that sanctification, I believe, in the practical sense of the word, is salvation can happen in a moment. You've experienced freedom. Amen. Excited for that. There's probably somebody that needs to accept Jesus today and surrender their life to Jesus right now. And so you're going to be going on this track in this talk where I'm going to helpfully get you to a point of practicality of what this can actually look like. But then also when we get to the point of practicality of what salvation can look like for us in a moment, we need to understand that doesn't mean everything changes in your life. It just means how you view everything changes in your life. It means now your purpose begins to change everything in your life. Now you need to begin to reorient everything into your life around this one idea that Jesus is greater than everything else I could find on this earth. So this is exciting for us because this is actually for us. So now we're at Mount Sinai, and God just didn't bring them out of something. He was actually bringing them into something. These are some concepts that we've had. And because what good is it to be free? What good is it to be free if you don't know who you are? Remember, there's 2 different types of freedoms. There's freedom from and there's freedom to. The Slaughterhouse did a great job of helping us understand those 2 types of freedoms. There's freedom from and there's freedom to. Maybe you've left your own Egypt, and this is kind of what it looks like for us in modern day. Maybe you've left your own Egypt, addiction, fear, religion, things that are less than what God has for us. And now you're still wondering, well, who am I now? Okay, great. I've been set free, but now who am I? What is there for me? What does this look like? See, freedom is not the final destination. This is really crucial for us because a lot of us think freedom is the destination. No, freedom is the environment or the place where your future can actually be cultivated. And I'll say it like this. Freedom is not the final destination. It's the formation ground where we move toward our purpose. Now that you've been set free, you can take a step into what you know is for you. The purpose that God has for each and every one of us, individually and collectively. I know this. I would not be in Denver, Colorado, if it wasn't for Parker and Jess. They helped me get here by the life that they lived, by who they were, by how they inspired me. And then the Lord helped me understand that it was time for me to come here because there's a city just south of here that also needs what people in Boulder are finding. That is Jesus. And so now I can step into a purpose and I honor them by the life that I now live because of the life that they've been living. And this is an exciting thing for me And I think this is an exciting thing for us because it's over a slow, steady, habitual life that we actually find a moment where we look back and say, I don't even know how I got here, and I don't even know who I am anymore. And I love this. I love this life. Some of you are going to struggle with me today. I'm going to tell you why. I have a really difficult time thinking past the next 24 hours. And I have a difficult time thinking less than the next 100 years. So I'm either very far in the future, or I am immediately present right here, right now with you in the next 24 hours. That is where I live. So my wife is just a gift from God in my life, okay? She is a gift from God because she says, hey, babe, we've got to let's think about let's plan the next 7 days. What does that look like? No. We've got to only focus on the next 24 hours because that's all we've been given. And if we can do that, we can live a life that will matter no matter what. And then I can say this, it's only a matter of time before I get to live a life that echoes into eternity for the next 100 years. That is the frustration that I'm just letting you know that you're going to have with me in life. And that's okay, because I need you in my life. I need you to help me understand, okay, well, what's the next 7 days? Or what's the next 7 years? Or what's the next 12 months? And so it's a beautiful thing when we have community come together where we need each other. But I'm really going to lean into those two things because that's not necessarily a normal way to live. I understand that. I have a lot of issues. Okay, I get that. But I'm going to bring that today, and I'm going to invite you to say, okay, I want to take these two opportunities of thinking, and I want to say, well, what about me, of where I am? How could this actually help you where you are? Because you, if you would like to, are at the foot of Mount Sinai. And if you would like to, at the foot of Mount Sinai, allow God to speak identity in your life, he will, if you're ready, and if you would like him to. And that's where we will begin. Because freedom is always about moving towards something. See, many of us are saved, but we are extremely insecure. Many of us have been delivered from sin, addiction, shame, and our own habits. But you are directionless, and you don't know where to go or turn. And then many of us who have a relationship with Jesus are free, but we are still living in chains. You've been resurrected, but you are completely restricted and stuck. See, as I think about this for us, I think about Lazarus in John chapter 11 when he was raised from the dead. And I think about the last really part where Lazarus walks out of the tomb, and Jesus says this, somebody untie this man because he's no longer dead, he's alive. He is walking in grave clothes, and he's not meant to walk in grave clothes anymore. Let's free this man up so he can actually live the life that I have healed him to live, that I have a miraculous moved in his life to live. And I believe that a lot of times us as good, maybe churchgoers, as, hey, I'm a Christian, or hey, I'm a follower of Jesus, I believe that there's a lot of people that are around your life that need you to stop walking around restricted in grave clothes. You need to allow someone in your community, allow me in this moment, allow Pastor Parker and Jess, allow this community to come around you and say, let me help you with something. It's time for you to remove the grave clothes, the old way of life that you've been living in, because that's not going to help you step into what God has for you. You're still living restricted. You're still living under these rules and regulations that you weren't made to live in. You're still chained up. You're resurrected and you're following Jesus, but you are not free. It was not until I really believed that I could practically hear from God and I allowed somebody to help me with that until I actually was able to do it. So if I ended this even just right now, I am desperate for every single one of you to actually have someone to walk through life with, for someone to disciple you, for someone to just help you understand how this could practically look. And I'm inviting you to say, who is, and if you're taking notes or if you want to think about anything, write this question down. Who is walking with me and sharing their life with me so that I actually get closer to Jesus? And if you don't have a person that's doing that in your life, I am begging you to begin to pray and to pursue that person. The sea was not the finish line. It was the starting line. The mountain wasn't just a moment. It was actually a mission. We've gone through the Red Sea. We're in the desert. We're experiencing the fire and the cloud. We're experiencing all of the things that it looks like in this Old Testament story of the Israelites doing this crazy roundabout thing because God is trying to get something through their hard heads, through their hard, habitual hearts. And he's trying to get them into his presence and get them to stop being like what everyone else was being. And that's available to you and I. You and I get stuck following God on a regular basis because we're human. Because you're human. You and I get stuck on a regular basis following God. And we say this, is this it? Is this it? And I'm here to tell you this morning, it is not it. And that is why I love following Jesus. There is more. It's just whether or not you're actually going to get on mission or not. We're at the foot of the mountain, and it's time for you to be missional like you've never been before. Or you'll keep getting stuck, and you'll keep getting held back, and you'll think it's other people, or you'll think that you need to be somebody else than you're not. But God wants you to meet him right where you are. He wants to meet you right where you are. And I believe you don't understand who you are, and that's what we're going to spend really the rest of our time thinking about. Before giving helpful rules to live by, God gave simple identity for us to actually step into. So listen to this. Exodus 19, 5-6 is where we are today. We're deep diving into these verses. Listen to this. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples. For all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. There's 3 simple identity pieces in this, and God is talking to Moses, and he's saying, this is what I want you to tell the people. Okay, great. Let's read that. That's awesome. But do we actually believe that the weight of God, the God of the universe, potentially just that the God of the universe is talking to these people? I just want you to imagine with me that that's actually what's happening, because some of you don't actually believe that's happening. That's fair. Some of you don't believe in the Bible. I couldn't be more thankful that you're here. I couldn't be more thankful to hear. Why? Because my role in that kind of context is not to speak in words that try to convince you, not to necessarily try to persuade you in a negative light, but my aim is to persuade you to be curious enough to see for yourselves, not necessarily take my opinion for it. But you'll see for yourselves if your heart says, this may be what I'm looking for. If your heart says, this may be what I've been looking for, in that I want more for my life. And I actually need to, if you want more for your life, you need to begin to see yourself as more than you currently do. And if God, and I was sharing the gospel on Monday this past week with a very intelligent businessman. And his name is James. And he sat down next to me. What's fascinating is, I think I've gotten to share the gospel like probably 9 or 10 times this past week, even this morning, which is crazy. But like I've gotten to share the gospel 9 or 10 times with individuals, and every single one of those times, they pursued me, I didn't pursue them. They were asking me, I wasn't asking them. And this is what it began to look like. It looks like him or you saying, this doesn't make any sense based off of my current view of the world. But what you have just said and what I'm seeing in the Bible is actually logical. More logical than anything I've ever seen. And if you're curious enough to see if this is legit for you, then I would say begin to take steps to just taste and see if what God is saying is something your heart is craving. Because if what God is saying is something that your heart is craving, maybe, just maybe, you should start tasting what he is saying in your practical everyday and begin learning about how he actually views you. Instead of taking other people's opinions about how he says he views you, start tasting the actual thing and hearing what he actually says about you. Because I believe if we can begin to wake up to how big of a deal this is, then the question is, how serious are you going to actually take it? And the first thing that we can look at is a treasured possession. When was the last time someone said, you are my treasured possession? Have you ever heard that before? I mean, I don't know. I've never really heard that before. Like, that's not something that we necessarily just go around saying. What's interesting about this word, because this is God speaking to Moses, for Moses to say to the people, is that God uses the word that means a king's private treasure. During this time when kings would fight other kings, the king would take his treasure and he would say, no, this is mine and this one is going to be set to the side, set apart for me. And what God is really saying in this moment is like, okay, everyone else can have all of this other treasure, but this one is mine. Because I want it, not because it wants me. And when we see God say that you are my treasured possession, what he's beginning to understand is that God wants you. Not for the type of treasure you are, not for the amount of wealth you bring to the table. He views you as treasure, and so you are it. It doesn't matter if you think that you're a treasure or not. It doesn't matter if you think that you should be thrown away or thrown to the side, or that your life is trash, or that you are trash. By the way, people talk like that. We talk about that. We talk like that to ourselves on a regular basis. But just know this, that's not how God of the universe talks to you. That's not how he views you. He doesn't view you as trash or set to the side, or you're only as good as what you provide. No, he views you as treasure and he sets you aside and he says, you are mine. That is maybe my favorite part of these two verses, is that he says, you are mine. And he uses the most personal language you can use in all of Scripture, where he uses mine. You are for me. He's not saying it for anyone else. He's saying it for himself. You are not tolerated by God. You are treasured by him. You keep trying to earn what God already calls his. And some of you never saw yourselves as treasure because you've been around people who treat you like trash. So you've been treated like trash for so long, you just think that that's who you are. Well, what if you began to view this community as people that weren't like that at all, and you actually found someone who treated you appropriately? I believe that's actually available for all of us, no matter where we are on our journey with God. And that actually changes your life immediately, doesn't it? Because so many of us have felt that kind of love, have felt that kind of care. And when we feel that kind of love, when we feel that kind of care, it immediately changes the future that we step into. It immediately does. See, there was this guy in college. He was my best friend at the time. His name's Taylor. And I could call him today and we could have the best conversation. And we'd talk just, the friend that you can just haven't talked to in a while, you just pick up right where you left off. That's this guy. And he said something that radically transformed my life in this context. And we were hanging out one day And he just looked at me and he said, hey, Trevor, I don't need you to have all the answers. I just want you to be with me. And I never had really a friend up until that point of my life that valued me as me and that just wanted me to be with him in the middle of it. And at the same time, understand that it wasn't about what I brought to the table. It was just that I was at the table with him. And I think many of us still have our value in what we bring to the table instead of us being at the table. You're at the table today. You're at the table today. There was a neighbor across the street. When I was growing up, I was throughout high school, that we lived in this one house for about 3 years, which was like the longest I ever lived anywhere in my life, just 3 years. We're praying to the Lord that that's not true for Denver for sure. But so we got 100-year goals for Denver for sure. And her name was Trish. And I remember that she was a starch atheist, hated God, but wanted a relationship with her neighbors. And so my mom began to just befriend her and invite her into our home. And Trish had a lot of questions about God, what God was wanting for her life, that type of thing. And then Trish, over the next 2 or 3 years, came to know Jesus, gave her life to the Lord. It was a really cool transformation. I was in high school at the time, so you can imagine the craziness that I was bringing to the table. Okay, so we were there, and I just remember Trish saying this: it was how messy your house was that led me to come to know Jesus. To my mom. It was the pile of laundry. It was the stack of dishes. It was all of the mess that was around you that led me to Jesus. It was that my mom was real. Is that my mom didn't fake having everything together. She had a relationship with God, and she just invited Trish into our home, and she came to know Jesus. Because it's not about the perfection that we're striving for. It's about the presence and us actually walking with Jesus. And I believe Boulder needs that. We don't need any more fake, perfect people. We need more real, imperfect people that are relying on actual Jesus. And I believe there's an exciting move of God that's happening through Pinewood because you're actually valuing you are the treasure instead of trying to make it. So the first thing you need to understand is your identity is being the treasure of God. The second is you're a kingdom of priests. Not robes and rituals, but spiritual authority, proximity, and influence. Every believer is called to ministry, and every place you step is a chance for heaven to touch earth. But you still think, and I still think so often, that it's a location where we meet with heaven. But when reality, heaven is in us because Jesus said, heaven is where I am. So if you have a relationship with Jesus, what do you have in your heart and in your life and in your soul? Heaven has now come at home in your heart, and now you walk around with heaven everywhere you go. So if in reality, everywhere you go now, heaven walks into. So it's the coffee shop that you walk into. Guess what just walked in? Heaven. The office that you go to in every day that you're bored out of your life in, guess what? It'll stop being boring if you start walking heaven into there. The relationships that feel mundane, that feel like they're going nowhere, they're ready for you to actually walk heaven into those relationships. So you use your words that are heavenly, not hurtful. That you use your words that are hope-filled, not just talking about the most average part of your life, but talking a part of the depths of your life. Yes, the mess. Don't forget this. Yes, the mess as well as the victories. And inviting those people into your life. There's an opportunity for us, and I still believe that you don't get it. It's hard to get conceptually. Let me say it like this. Every moment is a ministry. Every conversation is a chance for heaven to touch earth. Every space you step into becomes sacred ground. Every room is a revival waiting to happen. Every environment you enter is a ministry opportunity. Every relationship is an assignment. Every interaction carries eternal weight. Every place Your feet touch is kingdom territory. Every day is a divine appointment. Every breath is a chance to build the kingdom of heaven. Stop wasting what you've been given and who you are for less than why you were made. There's this moment where how you think needs to go from thinking about what has been to what God is trying to create in and through your life. The people that are of the kingdom of heaven create the future that heaven wants everyone to step into. A friend of mine is pastoring a church in Kentucky, and he was the MVP of his whole region in college. Actually, it was the whole league. He was a baseball player, pitcher, outfielder, and then he batted in the fourth spot. So he was the home run king. Okay, he set the home run record for the whole league he was in college. And when he set the home run record and he became the MVP of the league, obviously the MLB was looking at him to be able to recruit him to go and play for the Diamondbacks. He got drafted in the second round to play for the Diamondbacks. And when he was talking to me about what this looks like and feels like, to be able to perform at that high capacity, you're pretty good. You're pretty good. But see, what happened that just doesn't make any sense to those who have a short-term vision, the limited view of what you can only do while you exist on this earth. See, what happened as he began to think and he began to have this relationship with God that was changing his life is he came to know Jesus. Sorry, not sorry. He came to know Jesus. And he didn't come to know Jesus in this idea where it was just a decision. He came to know Jesus and he surrendered his life to Jesus. And when he surrendered his life to Jesus, he could no longer play in the MLB. Not because that wouldn't be a great platform. It can be. And by the way, not because he shouldn't necessarily do that. He could have done that, and he could have done that unto the glory of God. But he knew at the time that what God was actually leading him to was to actually be a pastor and to actually help people just like him that were far from God come to know Jesus. And he couldn't get rid of it. He knew because it was what God called him to do. By the way, God calls people to go and play in the MLB. Let's not get that wrong. Okay, I don't want to lie. God calls you to go be the CEO. God calls you to go be the amazing mom who changes the world. God calls you to be the amazing dad who changes the world. Stop thinking about it as a destination, and it's actually a way of life. There's a way of life for us here. Your priesthood, your ministry is now, if you so want to step into it. And it begins with the person sitting right next to you, to be honest with you. How are you going to minister to them? You could have been praying for that person the whole service, but you haven't been. Your ministry. You could be thinking about what God has for you so that you help them get closer to God. Your ministry. And immediately his whole world changed and is rocked. And he looks back and he says, I don't even recognize who I am anymore. This is who I must be. You don't just go to church. You are the church. And by the way, that's a nice thing to say. I've said that a lot to myself. I've said that a lot to communities and organizations. When the question for me is, when is someone going to say that to me by them actually looking at my life? That's for me. Yes, you could talk about it, but when are we going to start being it so much so that people are desperate to understand why I am about it? And then third, holy nation. Holy nation. Holy, being set apart, not perfect. You are not called to blend in anymore. You're called to reflect God. Your identity is a treasure. You're the treasure of the kingdom of God. You're his treasure. You're set apart. Your identity is a priesthood. It's time for you to actually be living like somebody, if you follow Jesus, that actually follows Jesus and ministers to those people around you. Now, everything gets redeemed, and you have a vision for everything and everyone that you step into, if you so choose. And then it's time for us to be a holy nation, a holy group of people set apart not perfect. And as we stop blending in, we realize that we're called to just simply reflect Jesus to those around us. But here's the warning. If you're avoiding your calling because someone else's looks better, you're denying your God-given identity. Some of you need to actually cancel whatever it is that you look at that leads you to want something other than what you currently have. That's a new type of cancel culture. You need to get rid of the things that are making you want things that you weren't made for. I was on a walk 2 days ago with one of the men in my community, and he shared something with me very, very difficult for him to share. He was sharing with me some of the sin that he was struggling with. And he looks at me and he says, hey, if I can't lead because I'm working through this, and we talked about how he's working through it, what he's doing to build a team around him to help him overcome. If I can't lead others, totally fine. I'll take a step back and I will just serve to the nth degree. And I looked at him and I had a few questions for him on that journey. And I celebrated him in that moment because he was allowing me to walk with him in one of the most difficult things that he could probably walk with. Shame, guilt, pain. We don't want to talk about the sin that holds us back from what God has for us, do we? We don't want to talk about that. But really, sin is the most hopeless state we can be in. And if we could, because Americans don't like the word sin, let me say it like this. It's you missing the mark and settling for less than all God has for you. Now, Americans, we like that definition because we want to know where we're missing the mark. We want to know where we're settling. Come on, speak my love language out here. We're bolder. We're trying to accomplish out here in these streets. You know, we want to see something special come into our life. Okay, fine. We'll stop sinning. Live as a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. Stop missing the mark. Here's how you stop missing the mark. You stop missing the mark more consistently when you start sharing with the people that need to see you, that help you, that don't want to bring shame into your life, but help you through it. And I looked at him after our walk and I said, you're the exact person that needs to be leading in this community, because we're not looking for perfect people to perform anymore on stages and platforms or in positions of authority or leadership. No, we're looking for the most imperfect people that are saying, here's how God is moving in my life. Here's how I'm changing. And here's how I'm setting up my future. Yes, sin is going to ensnare me. It's going to hold me back some, but I'm making my sin be so known by the people that need to know it. Don't get that twisted. Not everyone needs to know your sin, but someone needs to know your sin. Not everyone needs to know it, but somebody needs to know it, because we have to be walked with, because you get coaches for everything. You have 8 coaches, one for your morning routine, one for your way do you need to rest at night, one for the cold plunge, one for the sauna, one for how I need to work out, one for how I need to take care of my finances, one for how I need to take care of this kid, and my wife, and how I need to take care of myself. That's about 11 coaches. I get coaches everywhere. Let me tell you this. If you started walking with community and you started walking with Jesus, you would need a lot less coaches, because you would actually be living a life that was so filled with the authority of the kingdom of heaven that the coach that you need is the helper that's within you. There's a Holy Spirit for you that you actually need to walk with. And I'm not like, those aren't bad things. Stop getting things twisted when people stand in front of you to try and help you just step into what God has for you. I'm just trying to help you, whatever it is, I don't know. So if I'm saying something that's maybe getting at your soul, that's not me, that's the Spirit. That's the Lord. Why? Because He wants us to stop living in the boring, mundane area of our life where we just do what everyone else is doing. He wants us to actually experience the fullness of all of the positivity and all of the negativity. Why? Because the capacity and the growth happens in the ends and the extremes, not in the middle. And you're wanting to grow and you're wanting to go somewhere. So stop wasting the freedom that you've been given and step into the freedom of a life on purpose. Connect this to the gospel. This is a covenant. It's a committed relationship. And it's built on the promises of God. God doesn't say, I promise, I promise, I promise. No, he says, I made a covenant and I'm just going to keep that covenant over and over again. Why? Because he doesn't say, I promise like you and I say it on a regular basis, because he doesn't break them. He does. He says it and he is it. The promise is every word that he says is that thing. It's a promise. So know how serious this is for once and take him for how serious he is. God is saying, if you will be mine, that word will change your life, because you need to understand how big of a choice this actually is. If you will be mine, I, the God of the heavens and the universe, the creator of everything, I will be yours. And Israel broke it again and again. And Jeremiah 31 says this, behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant, and I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. But then Jesus lifted the cup in Luke 22:20, and he says this cup that is poured out for you is the new covenant that my blood covers. Israel couldn't keep the covenant, so Jesus fulfilled the covenant and invited us into a relationship that's not earned, it's only received. Now through him, we get the same identity without all of the shame. 1 Peter 2:9 says this, you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. This is the New Testament. We're going from Exodus to 1 Peter. You are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession. We don't just receive grace, we step into identity. We don't just visit God, we go with him and he is with us. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up to how big of a deal this is. Oh, but I get it. This isn't that big a deal to you. That's okay. There's going to be a few of you that say this is a big deal to me. And then you're going to look over in their life in the next 12 months and they're going to be unrecognizable. That's cool. Not all of us are going to get it. I get it that. But just know, and maybe even remember maybe who God is for once. And just say, hey, look, until you start taking God serious for what he actually said, then you won't be able to step into the success that God has for you. The supernatural purposes of God. The question is, how serious are we going to start taking this? Am I living like God's treasure? Am I ministering like a priest? Am I embracing holiness or avoiding it? You were made to be set apart, not set aside. So stop living like trash and start living like the treasure of the kingdom of heaven, because that's the truth. Not overlooked, not average, not the status quo, not mundane and not boring. So stop being it, because you weren't made to be that. Somebody needs prayer right now because you're ready to step into the next area of your life. You're ready to step into what God has for you, and you're ready to surrender your life to Jesus, either for the first time or you need to surrender your life officially, because you've maybe done it before, you've had ideas about it in the past, but you need to surrender your life right now because you're ready to live the rest of the day in freedom, actually headed in a direction that God actually has for you.